Hello guys, it's Boutch and welcome back to another video. This will be a multiple part series. I know that some of you who know me very well might have doubted the fact that I'll be making another video because I'm generally that type of guy that gets hyped about one thing, usually does it once and then just abandons it. Call it ADHD or whatever, but you'll bet I'm trying my best to overcome this hurdle. Enough talking about my life, we're all here to talk about video games. So in today's video, we'll be talking about the games that have impacted me the most. In my eyes, these games are a straight 10 out of 10, no questions asked. Some of them hold a bigger place in my heart than others. Do note that all of the games I'll be mentioning will be strictly single player. The order that I mention the games in doesn't matter. This is not a ranking video, but instead one where I dive deep into why these games have impacted me the way they did and why I treasure them the most out of hundreds of games. Also do keep in mind that most of it, if not all of the games that are going to be mentioned, are very popular and could seem like normie choices. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm unique, way different than the rest of you, and that this list is going to be filled with games that nobody has ever heard of. I'm not going to sneak in indie games. Anyways, sorry about the long introduction here. Here are to me the best video games ever created.
You got some money for me, boy? I seen your name in our ledger.
When you hear the name Rockstar Games, two different franchises come to mind, either the very obvious Grand Theft Auto or the less popular but in my opinion better choice, which is Red Dead Redemption. I'll be specifically talking about the second one because it's more interesting than the first one. All love and no hate to John Marston, but Red Dead Redemption 2's protagonist is the superior one by far. You know, when you think about iconic video game characters, the one that come to mind are the likes of Kratos from God of War, Ezio from Assassin's Creed, or Snake from Metal Gear Solid. But I do sincerely in my heart believe that up there with the greats, Arthur Morgan could very easily sneak his way through to the top. Even though he spent 20 years in the gang, at the time this story takes place, you can very easily see how Arthur is deep down a very good person and he has a good heart on him. There are a couple of moments where you get to see this very clearly. I can't talk much about them for spoiler reasons, but throughout the story you really get attached to the character and even to his goddamn horse. Goes to show how incredible the story writing in Rockstar Games is. I love the little conversations that the Dutch gang get to have with one another while doing the missions. It provides very needed depth and most of the time context about why Arthur has a grudge against someone, for example, or how he met a member of the gang. Roger Clark did an incredible job voicing Arthur. I don't think there was anyone else in the whole world who is more suited to play him because he is the cowboy man voice. This game is very pretty and the visuals are stunning. For a game that came out in 2018, it sure did hold up very well. I'm here replaying it in 2025 and with everything maxed out, it sure does look better than most AAA slop that is coming out nowadays. The game starts you off in a snowy area, but once you get to actually get a good look at what the nature looks like in Red Dead Redemption 2, you'll be in awe. I remember playing it for the first time on my PS4 and it looked incredible even with the hardware limitations at the 30 FPS. Credit to Rockstar, they're one of the few studios who know how to release a very polished game. Combat in this game is not extraordinary, but the Deadeye skill, which looks like it was inspired by Trevor and Franklin's skills in GTA 5, adds a nice touch. It makes you feel a badass when you go slow-mo, aim at 2-3 dudes' heads and then bam instantly headshot all of them. The lasso can be used in very creative ways and could also lead to some pretty funny and hilarious moments. The amount of detail in the open world is incomparable to any other game out there. After all, it's a Rockstar game and it's so well done that I'm here to give you an example. Here's a clip of me where during a mission, the wheel falls off from the cart while crossing the river. In other games, the act of putting the wheel back on would have been added to the cinematic, which would have kind of killed the immersion, but Rockstar here decided to let you be in control of every single little detail. You pick it up, roll it, and with the help of your crew you put it back in. Of course not without Arthur cracking a joke or two and bullying one of his squad members, but this one here is one of the many reasons why I fell in love with the game. The immersion is top notch. I'm not a very emotional person, but this here is the only game that made me shed real man tears. I'd give it that. I got so hooked, so attached to the characters that I couldn't hold back sometimes and had to let it out. Rockstar really did go above and beyond with this one. I know I didn't get to cover everything that this game has to offer. I may make a separate video where I go more in depth talking about this masterpiece, but for now trust me when I say that this game is perfect. It's a wonderful pick. If you haven't played it before, you have to do so, and if you're looking to sit back, relax and enjoy one of the greatest stories ever written, do keep in mind that this is not a short game by all means. It'll take around 50-ish hours to complete, and I'm not including any side quests that you might go and do along the way. It's very easy as well to recommend to a friend who has never touched video game, because who knows, you might just create another Arthur stan.
You don't want to involve yourself with this.
You killed my cousin, you sick son of a bitch!
But there's one they fear. In their tongue, he's Dovahkiin. Anakin. Dragonborn.
The 11th of November 2011 is a date that will always be engraved in my memories. At the time of writing this, it's been 4,837 days since the last Elder Scrolls game nicknamed Skyrim came out. It's been exactly 2,434 days since the Elder Scrolls 6 reveal trailer was officially released by Bethesda. At this point, man, I'll be married, have 2 or 3 kids before the game ever comes out, and with the recent blunders that Bethesda has been making, Starfield, I'm really scared about this one. But we're not here to talk about the Elder Scrolls 6, we're here to talk about its little brother, the Elder Scrolls 5 Skyrim. What a game that was, man. I remember playing back in 2012 on my Xbox 360 and I couldn't stop. I would wake up, go to school, and the only thing that I wanted to do was to go back home to play this masterpiece. At the time of its release, it was very graphically impressive, and still to this day, it holds itself pretty well. Nothing in comparison to the likes of God of War or Spider-Man. It's still holding a pretty solid player base. I find myself coming back to it often, and for reasons I'll get into in just a bit. Skyrim is by far the solo game that I have the most hours in. It takes you a very long time before you get to explore and discover every single thing that Bethesda put out there, but what makes you hooked is not the very in-depth skill system that'll take you hundreds of hours to max out, or the different herb mixes that you can make using the alchemist table, or the hundreds of side quests that you can do, exploring dungeons or delve in ruins, killing and slaying dragons, learning new shouting spells. No, all of that is nothing in comparison to a small implementation to the game that the genius devs at Bethesda gave the community: the mods. Oh my god, I can't really talk about every single mod out there, from the crazy ones like the one that replaces dragons with Thomas the Train, or the more serious ones that you can find on Wabbajack, for example, that completely overhaul the game and every single gameplay system, and sometimes even completely changes Skyrim, even though I have so much love for the vanilla version of the game. No, the possibilities with mods are endless. As of right now, the Nexus Mods Skyrim mods library consists of over 104,000 mods. Yes, you heard that right, 104,000 mods. That's why we see over 2,000 players coming back to play this now 14-year-old masterpiece every day. Hell, it's 1,000 less players than Dragon Age the Veilguard, a game that came out in 2024 and that took BioWare 10 years to develop, only for it to flop at the end. If you're really willing to give Skyrim a try, then be ready to lose the notion of time, let yourself be transported to the wonderful Elder Scrolls universe. Also, I forgot to mention that Skyrim has helped me so much in my journey to learn English when I was little. I would have the menus and item descriptions in English and the game be in French, or sometimes vice versa. So yeah, thank you Skyrim for making me be able to talk, read, and speak in English, and shout out to Todd Howard for making me lose 1,000 hours of my life on this game.
Oh, there do I see my mother. Oh, there do I see my father. Oh, there do they call to me. Oh, there do they call to me. Oh, there do they call to me.
Playing the old God of War games felt great. I remember I had a PSP and I used to play Chains of Olympus with a friend on the staircase in front of my house. What a golden era that was, man. Shout out to Sama. God of War 1 and 2 were a staple back in the days, and then God of War 3 came out and that was somehow even better than all the previous ones. It took the IP to new heights. Kratos was an icon in the video games world. Heck, I even had on multiple occasions put the big man himself as a profile picture on my socials. But then it came to a stop. Kratos ended up murdering and slaughtering every single Olympian god. It looked like the end of a very successful franchise. I myself thought that Santa Monica was going to call it quits and move on to something else, but then 2016 happened.
Yes, sir.
Then show me what you know. Feed us.
This reveal sent shivers down my spine, man. Santa Monica had taken a whole different turn. The main focus of the first game was always the combat. Don't get me wrong, the story was great in the old game, but it was just basically a hack and slash game where you get to mess around in Olympus in order to get revenge over the gods who have wronged you. Ironic, since Kratos was the one to plead Ares to help once he was backed up to a corner, and then he gets to killing all of them. God of War 2018 was different. It was heavily focused on the story and narrative side. You're now slaying gods of the Norse mythology. You get to fight fight the likes of Heimdall, Thor, Baldur, Odin. It's a story about regret, pain, mourning. This time you weren't going on this journey alone. You had with you a very young boy who seemed to come out of nowhere. At first he seems very annoying, talking back to his father, disrespecting the god of war. A title, to be fair, Atreus was ignorant to at the time. Kratos here was way older, more mature, calm, composed, way less aggressive than what he used to be. He looked like a shadow of his past self. But me personally, I loved the new Kratos. His character development was very good, and I prefer his older version better than the young one. Even if Atreus was one annoying little brat in the first game, in the second edition of the reinvention of the God of War franchise, and by that I mean God of War Ragnarok, Atreus quickly climbed up the ranks to become one of my all-time favorite characters in the God of War franchise. I enjoyed the second game way more than the first one, and I know that there are people who would disagree with me on this take. The scope for the second game was way bigger, the story was more interesting, some say it was rushed. Yeah, I guess you could feel that way. It might have been the case a little bit at the end, but other than that, the rest of it was perfect. The voice acting in the game was on a whole nother level. The visuals, the fluidity of the combat, the different biomes that you get to explore, the lovely side supporting characters were all very well written. Santa Monica really hit the nail with this one. To follow up the success of God of War 2018 was no small task, but they managed to make a behemoth of a game. There are rumors that the next God of War would take place in Egypt. Do keep that in mind, that these are only rumors, but I've always wanted to see Kratos beat the crap out of pharaohs. Like, to be honest, it sounds great. If you're into action adventure games, like great stories, memorable characters, and beautifully crafted worlds, then God of War 2018 and God of War Ragnarok are right up your alley, and they are a must play.
The only way to do that is war.
War is not the only way.
That was a very long video. Thank you guys for sticking with me till the end and hearing me ramble about these precious gems. Feel free to like the video and maybe hit the subscribe button. Drop a comment in which you guys tell me what your all-time favorite video games are. And on that note, I'll see you guys on the next one.